You ever walk into your own house and feel like you don't belong there anymore? Like something invisible shifted in the air, a smell, a silence, something you can't quite name, but it makes the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. That was me, the day I came home early. The sun wasn't even down yet, my bag still slung over my shoulder from work, and I was humming to myself as I slid the key into the lock. I thought I was about to surprise my wife, maybe catch her mid-Netflix binge, curl up beside her, maybe even salvage the evening we hadn't had in weeks, but instead I opened the door and saw him. And not just him wearing my slippers. My slippers. The ones I slip into after a long day, the ones molded to the shape of my feet, and there he was, standing in my living room, sipping from one of our glasses, looking up at me like I was the intruder. She jumped off the couch so fast she nearly tripped. "Babe, you're home early." Her voice was too high, too nervous. She tried to smile but it came out crooked, brittle, and then she did something I'll never forget. She looked at him like she was checking if he was okay before she looked back at me. In that split second I knew all. The late nights, all the text messages she swore were from a friend, all the excuses about traffic, about deadlines. It all clicked. The friend wasn't just a friend, he was in my house, in my glass, in my slippers. Now most men would have exploded right there, fists flying, voices raised. A scene worthy of neighborhood gossip, but I didn't, because I'd suspected something for a long time, and if there's one thing worse than betrayal, it's doubting your own gut. She'd spent months telling me I was paranoid, that I was controlling, that I was imagining things, and here was the proof, standing on my carpet, with his toes nestled where mine should have been. "Nice slippers," I said finally, my voice calm, almost too calm. He froze, half smile fading, setting the glass down carefully on the coffee table like it might explode. She rushed forward, placing herself between us. "It's not what it looks like," she blurted, the oldest line in the book. I tilted my head. "Really? Because it looks like some guy's drinking my whiskey in my house, in my slippers, while my wife's telling me he's just a friend." She opened her mouth, closed it again, scrambling for words. He muttered something under his breath, reaching for his shoes, clearly itching to bolt. "Don't," I said sharply, my eyes locking on him. "Sit." To my surprise he did. Maybe it was the tone, maybe it was the fact that I wasn't shouting, wasn't losing control. Sometimes calm is scarier than rage, and I could see it in the way his hands trembled slightly as he put them on his knees.
She started babbling, excuses spilling out like water from a cracked dam. He came over because he was upset. He needed someone to talk to. "I let him borrow your slippers because his shoes were wet. It's not what you think." But the more she spoke, the less I listened, because deep down I already knew the truth. This wasn't the first time. This wasn't some accident. This was a routine, a pattern, a secret they thought they could keep buried, and I'd finally caught them mid-dig. So I played it differently. I didn't kick him out. I didn't scream at her. I sat down in the chair opposite them, dropped my bag to the floor, and crossed my legs like we were about to have a meeting. "Let's make this easy," I said. "You've been telling me for months he's just a friend. Friends don't wear my slippers, so why don't we drop the act and call this what it is?" Her face flushed crimson. She glanced at him for backup, but he just stared at the floor. Silent. Coward. Typical. "You think I haven't noticed?" I continued, my voice still level, steady. "The late nights, the lies, the sudden urge to go jogging when you've never jogged a day in your life. You think I'm stupid?" "I never said you were stupid," she whispered. "No," I said, leaning forward. "But you acted like I was, and that's worse." She started crying then, the kind of tears that were meant to soften me, to make me question myself again, and maybe a year ago they would have worked. But not now, because I'd been preparing for this moment, even if I hadn't admitted it to myself. Every suspicion, every knot in my stomach, every time she brushed me off, it had all been leading here. And here's the part I haven't told you yet. I'd already started keeping records, screenshots of her just a friend messages, noting the time she left, the excuses she gave. I wasn't stalking her, I was protecting my sanity. Because when someone keeps telling you you're imagining things, you need something solid to hold on to. And now, with him sitting in my slippers like a guilty child, I didn't just have suspicion, I had proof. The silence stretched until he finally spoke, his voice low, sheepish. "Look, man, I didn't mean." "Stop," I snapped. "Don't call me man. You don't know me. You don't get to act like we're equals while you sneak around behind my back. So shut up." He swallowed hard, nodded, and I could see the shame creeping into his posture. Good. Let it eat him. I turned back to her. You had a choice. You could have been honest. You could have told me you weren't happy, that you wanted out. But instead, you dragged this into my house, into my space. That's the part I can't forgive. She reached out, but I pulled back. Please, she whispered. It was a mistake. Mistakes don't last months, I said. The rest of that night was a blur of half-truths and confessions. She admitted more than she realized, piecing together a timeline that stretched far longer than I'd guessed. Every word was another knife, but I sat there and took it, because I needed the whole picture. And he finally slunk out, barefoot, clutching his shoes in his hands, too ashamed to meet my eyes. I let him go, because the real confrontation wasn't with him. It was with her. When the door shut behind him, the house felt colder. She sat there, tears streaking her face, begging me to say something, anything. But all I said was, we're not done. Not yet. Because here's the thing. Catching them was only the beginning. What came next would be deliberate, calculated. And if she thought the worst part was me finding him in my slippers, she had no idea what was coming. The house was quiet after he left. But it wasn't peace. It was that heavy silence before a storm, thick and tense. She sat on the couch, shoulders hunched, mascara running down her cheeks. Every time she tried to meet my eyes, she looked away like she was staring into the sun. I stayed standing, arms crossed, because if I sat down beside her, if I let her grab my hand, I knew she'd spin the same web she'd been spinning for months, and I wasn't going to be the fly anymore. You want to know what hurts the most? I asked finally, my voice steady, not raised. It's not that you cheated, it's that you made me question myself. You looked me in the eye, night after night, and told me I was paranoid, that I was crazy, that he was just a friend. You made me think I was the problem. That's the part I can't forgive. She sobbed into her hands. I'm sorry, I didn't mean for it to go this far. I was lonely. You were so busy with work, with everything. He listened to me. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was so predictable. The script was older than our marriage itself. Lonely. He listened. The same lines people have been using to justify betrayal since the dawn of time. You brought him into our house, I said, my voice sharper now. You let him sit where I sit, drink from my glass, wear my slippers. She flinched, because even she couldn't deny how twisted it sounded when I said it out loud. And then I leaned in, just enough for her to see the steel in my eyes. Do you know what that means? It means you didn't just cross a line. You burned the bridge behind you. That night I didn't sleep in our bed. I took a blanket and lay on the couch, not because I was weak, but because I wanted her to feel the emptiness of that bed without me in it. I wanted her to hear me moving downstairs, to know I was there but completely out of reach. The days that followed were a performance on her part. She cooked my favorite meals, left notes in my work bag, even suggested counseling, as if dragging a stranger into the room could erase the image of him padding around my house in my damn slippers. I played along just enough to keep her guessing. But behind the scenes, I was setting things in motion. First, I called Amanda, my lawyer friend, the same one who'd helped a buddy of mine during his divorce. I laid out the story, the evidence, the timeline. When I got to the part about the slippers, she actually shook her head in disbelief. That's new, she muttered. I've heard a lot of stories. But that one, that's symbolic. Symbolic. That word stuck with me, because it wasn't just about shoes, it was about territory, respect, invasion. He hadn't just taken my wife, he'd stepped into my life, literally with his feet where mine belonged, and she'd let him. Amanda flipped through my notes, screenshots, receipts, little inconsistencies I'd tracked for months. You've got enough to protect yourself financially, she said. Custody, assets, property. You'll come out clean, but you need to decide if you want this to be quiet or instructive. Instructive? I asked. She leaned back, folding her hands. Some men just want out. Others want to make sure the people who betrayed them learn not to underestimate them again. Which one are you? I didn't answer right away, but inside I already knew. A week later, I staged it, invited her parents for dinner, told her I wanted to clear the air, that maybe we could move forward. She brightened, thinking I was finally softening. She cooked, cleaned, set the table like it was Thanksgiving, and when her parents arrived, she smiled like the good daughter, the The good wife. Halfway through the meal, I stood up, clinked my glass, and said, "I think it's time we're all honest with each other." She froze, fork halfway to her mouth. "What are you doing?" she hissed under her breath. I ignored her. I pulled out my phone, connected it to the TV, and pressed play. There he was, clear as day, in the footage I'd caught on my home camera before I even knew about the dashcam recordings. Him walking into my house, slipping off his shoes, sliding into my slippers, grinning like he owned the place. My wife behind him, laughing. The room went dead silent. Her parents stared at the screen, then at her. She dropped her fork, color draining from her face. "This," I said, my voice calm but cutting through the silence, "is the man my wife told me was just a friend. The man who sat in my living room while I was working, who wore my slippers like some sick joke. And this is the woman who looked me in the eye, week after week, and told me I was insecure for even suspecting anything." Her mother gasped. Her father clenched his jaw so tight I thought his teeth might crack. She buried her face in her hands, muttering, "Stop, please, stop." But I didn't stop. I let the footage roll, every uncomfortable second of it. Him sipping from my glass, her leaning on his shoulder, the two of them laughing at something I'd never hear. I let her parents see it all, because I wanted witnesses. I wanted the truth to be undeniable. When it ended, I turned off the TV and looked at her. "I'm done," I said simply. "Amanda has the papers. You'll get them this week. I suggest you sign." Her parents left in silence, shame written across their faces. She tried to follow them out, but her father stopped her at the door. "Don't," he said coldly. "Not tonight." And then they walked away, leaving her standing there alone. That was the first real crack in her armor. She wasn't just losing me. She was losing the respect of the people she thought would always protect her. The rest unfolded exactly as Amanda predicted. The divorce was swift, clean. The footage, the documentation, the timing, it all made her position indefensible. I kept the house, the car, and the bulk of our assets. She moved into a small apartment across town, the same slippers she once laughed at still sitting by the door, untouched. As for him, he disappeared. Whether out of shame or fear, I'll never know. But I heard whispers. His wife, the one he hadn't even divorced yet, found out, used my evidence in her own case. He ended up broke, living in a rented room, his reputation shredded. Sometimes I think about the look on his face when I walked through the door that day, catching him mid-step in my slippers. That split second where he realized the game was up. And I wonder if he'll ever put on another man's shoes again, or if every time he does, he'll feel my eyes burning into him. But the bigger image, the one that stays with me, is her face when the footage played in front of her parents. That mask of control, of confidence, cracking into dust. That was the real revenge. Not the legal win, not the financial gain. It was watching her crumble under the truth she thought she'd buried. Now when people ask me if I regret how it ended, I tell them no, because sometimes the only way to expose a liar is to let their own actions play out on a screen, and sometimes the sweetest justice is as simple as reclaiming your slippers, your space, your dignity. She said he was just a friend, but friends don't wear another man's slippers in his own house. And the day I saw that, I stopped being her fool and started being free.